Hi everyone, Alice Psych here. I have a video for you today for informational purposes only. I've entitled it Positive Thinking Drawbacks, and most of the information I took is from the book called The Antidote by Oliver Burkeman, and it's from 2012. So, in a nutshell, the author talks about how positivity can backfire, and basically he writes that positive thinking may keep us from confronting some of the difficulties that we face in life, and confronting which may ease the impact of difficulties. So based on this premise, I'll proceed. Now there's something called the ironic process theory. This is by Daniel Wegner, which is how our efforts to suppress certain thoughts or behaviors result in their becoming more prevalent. So if you're trying to look at only positivity, you may then be bringing the difficult incidents into your life in a more prevalent way. Okay. Now the author uses information from Stoicism and Buddhism as an alternative to positive thinking. So he mentions that Stoics, instead of avoiding the possibility of something going wrong, think about what possibly could go wrong. Okay. So they don't expend energy trying to avoid thinking about what could go wrong. The name that they give this process is the premeditation of evils. The idea here is that if you can imagine how things go wrong in reality, you'll usually find that your fears were exaggerated. Okay, usually anyway. Okay. Now I know in reading Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic that wrote the Meditations, he would often remind himself that what we have does not last. Okay, he took this to the point of reminding himself that he may see his child today, but possibly not tomorrow. You know, possibly his child will die tomorrow. He took it to that point, and I do believe that that doing this would lessen the impact of the blow if you were to lose a child. Now, of course, back in Marcus's time, it wasn't that unusual for parents to lose children before the parents died. But I do think that would work. I know when my parents died, I know it's not the same as losing a child, but you know, as they were getting on in age, I got to that mindset of thinking, okay, I know that you know, they can pass any time, and I think that did help when eventually they did die. Okay, now back to what the author said. So the author also writes, confronting the worst case saps it of much of its anxiety-inducing power. Okay, so happiness reached via positive thinking can be fleeting and brittle, as he puts it. He references another Stoic here, Seneca, who wrote that if what you fear is the most is losing your material wealth, Seneca then advises don't persuade yourself that it could never happen, a la positive thinking, refusing the possibility of failure. Instead, try acting as if you had already lost it. Okay, so set aside a few days in which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, as he put it, saying to yourself, is this the condition I feared? You know, usually it's not nearly as much of a problem as you had anticipated. Okay, and there are actually Stoic cards that you can buy. I have a challenge deck of Stoic cards that have certain tasks that you do, and they're kind of fun. I actually did a video on those cards. Now, for Stoics, tranquility entails confronting the reality of your limited control. Okay. Now, in terms of Buddhism, there's a lot of similarity there. So, in Buddhism, the path to happiness is non-attachment. Okay. Attachments represent your attempt to try to deny the unavoidable truth that everything is impermanent. Or as George Harrison sang, all things must pass. Okay, so the Buddha eases his mind not by denying suffering, but by seeing it, experiencing it, confronting it, rather than struggling to avoid it. Uh, doesn't it sound a little bit like acceptance and commitment therapy? I think it does. Okay, now the first big step toward non-attachment, learning to view passing thoughts and feelings as if you were a spectator, okay, not a participant. And this sounds a little bit like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Okay, so you're non-judgmentally observing. Okay, a couple more things. The Catholic monk Thomas Merton said, "The more you try to avoid suffering, the more you suffer, because smaller and smaller insignificant things begin to torture you in proportion to your fear of being hurt." Okay, and then the author actually talks of J.K. Rowling of Harry Potter fame. This is at a time when she was jobless, she was failing in what she was doing, she was poor, it was a dark time for her, she didn't like it, but she says failure meant a stripping away of the inessential. I was set free because my greatest fear had been realized and I was still alive. Failure gave me an inner security that I had never attained by passing examinations. Okay, really interesting. And finally, from a Stoic perspective, staying aware of the finality of life increases the likelihood of your cherishing life more. Okay, so interesting stuff. That's it for now. Thanks.